to today's episode of Your Talk Time with Lindsy Bivens
and Sonjia Pelton-Sam, a show for real people with real issues, coming up with real strategies and winning solutions. Today we have an awesome guest for you.
Yes, none other than Mr. Andrew Landry.
Hello, how y'all doing?
Thank you so much for joining us today, Andrew. We're excited to have you, so thank you for coming on. But I'm more excited about hearing what you have going on. So this will be very candid. Tell us what you have going on right now.
Well, right now, I just last year I published my first book with your help, Overcoming the Addiction That No One Has. And out of that book, topically the book is about sex addiction. The story of the book is hope and redemption. So out of that book, we birthed a group called Where Men Hurt. And what I found in the book was that after I wrote the book, I found that men just don't have an outlet. They don't have a place where they can go and talk about real life issues. And so we birthed Where Men Hurt out of the book. And then out of the Where Men Hurt Foundation, we're going to be birthing our first men's conference, which will be in August.
Yes.
So I'm excited about that.
Yes, like reach around and pat yourself on the back, brother.
Yes.
Thank you.
That is amazing work, and I know we'll dive into, kind of more details about the book, but I mean, the vision to do this, like when you wrote the book, did you already have in mind to have a men's group or to host this conference?
Absolutely not. When I wrote the book, I really didn't want to write the book because by nature, writing is not it's not my thing. And so when God gave me the vision to write the book, I just wrote it. And when he talked to me about what I should do and what I should say, I was just kind of just having a conversation. And so then the book came out of that conversation. And so I never planned on writing the book. And then I just was very diligent in hearing what God was saying and what he was telling me to do. And so then the Where Men Hurt idea came through the story of the book. Because I didn't feel like I had an avenue or I didn't have somebody that I could go talk to when I was dealing with issues. And so that's kind of the backdrop of the Where Men Hurt.
Do you think it was like a defining moment that really just helped you stop and deal with the issue? Was it like something that just really happened and said, hey, this must stop, I have to deal with it now?
Well, I think when I was dealing with the issue, I was recently saved, and so a part of the issue was being saved and not being raised in church. You really don't know what the salvation walk looks like, right?
Right.
And so I thought once I got saved, everything was over, great life, I done got all, the new creature was coming and all that stuff. And little did I know that it was the beginning of my walk, which was going to have to expose some things. And so in that, I talked to my pastor at the time because I was still dealing with some sexual behaviors that I shouldn't have because I was married at the time. And then I went to a sex therapist, and they, diagnosed me with compulsive sexual disorder, what we commonly call sex addiction. And I talked to my pastor, and I was like, I just want to be better. I just want to be better because I could see all the people on the stage, and I was like, well, why can't I have what they got? But not recognizing that everybody deals with something. And just because they were on the stage didn't mean that they didn't have the same type of issues. And so I just wanted to be better, and I went through the process of trying to take the steps to be a better person.
And I want to stop right there and commend you as a man for being able to even just talk to another man about your issue, but then for being able to go to seek help. Counseling, therapy, because a lot of men don't like to seek help.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They try to control and do everything themselves, and then it's like an explosive something when it does happen. So I just want to stop and commend you right there.
Well, thank you. And I think that's a part of where Men Hurt came from. And Where Men Hurt, it doesn't just deal with sexual addiction. It deals with life. We meet every other Monday in a barbershop in Humble. And there are men that are coming with suicidal thoughts, and we get to have that discussion. There are men that's coming with domestic violence issues or alcoholism or whatever it is. We have developed a setting to where men are free to be able to express. The issue that I found is that when you bring that issue to your wife or your significant other, there typically comes judgment.
Yes.
And that's where you lose men. And so in this setting, it allows us to be real, be open, be vulnerable and transparent. And that's where you start getting healing.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I talk about in the book is the first step to healing is transparency and vulnerability. And so we start to get those conversations started, and now you're seeing men that are becoming free. And that's the whole purpose of Where Men Hurt.
I think this is a great place to pause and really tell our viewers where they can find out more about Where Men Hurt. So can you share your social media handles, website with us? So
on social media, you can find me at for the Where Men Hurt is Where Men Hurt on Facebook. Also on my website, wheremenhurt.org or .com, either one. You can find the information about upcoming events. It talks about what we do in the setting. You'll see some fabulous pictures of men praying and getting together and congregating. So by all means, check it out.
Awesome. I love that you share this, because some people, like you mentioned, you host this a couple times a month, every month. So you want to get connected and plugged in, especially for our brothers. But for the women, what can we stand to do to support men like Andrew Landry? We can help champion for him. I know myself, I'm married. Sonjia, we're both married women. And we want to see men thrive. You know, you're the head of the family. And we want to see you thrive, not just in your homes and in your relationships, but in the community. So I commend you as well for your courage, you know, for your courage alone. Because regardless if you're male or female, sometimes dealing with your own stuff and being, you know, dealing with it to such a degree that it's public or, you know, open for people to see, just like writing this book, it took a tremendous amount of courage for you to step forward and do this. Yes.
Well, like I said, writing the book wasn't my idea. It was definitely something that God inspired me to do. But by nature, I'm a servant, and I love to help people. And so the theme scripture of the book was written from was Revelations 12 and 11, and it says that they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. And what I found out is that as Christians, we all know that the blood works, right? We never have a question about that. The issue that God explained to me was it's the word of the testimony that that we go without. And so if there's no testimony, then there's very little opportunity for true healing. And so my main goal was to be able to put myself out there to be able to help people, and I'm free. You know, it doesn't bother me how people see me or how they look at me, because when you're free, none of that matters.
Look, freedom looks good on you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Freedom looks good on you. And I think when you say the word of our testimony, I think kind of in our community in general that a lot of times people don't give their real testimony. How many times have we heard that? Right. People will give you the soft version of the testimony, right? But a lot of times people don't share their real testimony because they're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of what people are going to say and do. But when you really testify about the goodness of God, like Andrew Landry, not only will you be free, but you give other people permission to walk in that same level of freedom.
Absolutely.
Right? Yes.
And another thing I like that you did is you took it outside of the four walls of the church, right? So you brought it where anybody can come in and enjoy it. And sometimes that's what it takes for us to even get people into the church.
Yes.
Right? Is to come out and go to them.
Right.
And what better place than a barbershop? I used to own a beauty shop, barbershop, guys, and a lot of good conversation goes on in there, but also a lot of healing and restoration goes on in the beauty shop and barbershop. It's like your first boundary to a therapist or something, a counselor. So I really like where you put it. I like that. It's a great place to meet and talk.
Yeah, and it gives an intimate setting, but a freeing place.
A real conversation.
Right, so you can have a real conversation in a barbershop. And when you think about it, you do anyway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the place. And I wasn't aware until I talked to the lady that's helping me with my nonprofit, is that a few years back, President Obama had an initiative for barbershop talks.
Wow.
And so I wasn't aware of that. You know, I just happened to get in, and it just happened to be a part of the vision. And so I'm really excited about it. You know, on a Monday night, we have anywhere between 18 and 35 men that show up.
That's awesome.
That's pretty consistent. and they have an opportunity to just be themselves. You know, some of them come in and they don't say anything, and some of them come in and they're like, man, my wife made me mad today, and I want to break the dishes, and so, you know, everybody's not Christian, right? And so we invite everybody to come. We do give scriptural advice, but we also give practical advice because, and this is just me, I think a lot of times in the church we don't give practical advice.
Right.
We'll tell them what the Bible says, and if you're not a believer or you're not mature in the Word, it doesn't matter what you say.
You can't apply it.
Right. And so we try to be practical. We try to also come from a scriptural standpoint because we know that Jesus is the way to real healing and to real salvation. And so we invite everybody to come out.
I like that. And again, just the inclusivity of it, you know, saying that you welcome all types of men and regardless of their faith. I think that says something too about kind of your vision for this, though, you know, that your vision is, you know, it's about helping people to heal regardless of their religious affiliations, right? So please tell us some more about this conference. You alluded to the conference, but we've not talked about that yet. So I would love to hear more about your upcoming conference.
All right, so the conference is going to be August the 3rd at the Lighthouse Church, 6650 Rankin Road in Humble, Texas, where Pastor Keon Henderson is my pastor. And the conference is designed to address the areas of where men hurt. So we're gonna have some dynamic speakers come in, and we're gonna touch on topics of spirituality, where men hurt spiritually, physical health, mental health, finances, business, sexuality, and then relationships and entertainment. And so we're gonna have speakers come in, and they're gonna talk about those. We'll have panel discussions so that men can come in and they can really just ask those real tough questions. And somebody asked me, you know, would women be able to come? And I was like, well, not to this one.
Yeah.
Because the problem with women coming, if you want to call it a problem, is if I have an issue, say I'm dealing with lust, and my wife is here, and my best friend and his wife is here,
Right.
and I say, hey, I got a question, you know, I'm dealing with lust, then his wife looking at me funny or wondering why is he hanging out with me.
Right.
So that's why we decided to do it just as a men's conference. But in the works is going to be a conference which we're going to title The Women Have Hurt Men. And so then we'll be able to bring in both sets where we can have that instruction so that both can kind of benefit from it.
So I think this is another great place to pause and tell us where we can find more information about your conference. So what's the website?
So the website for the conference is wheremenhurt.org. We have the events tab on there, and also you can purchase your tickets there. We have a VIP, a regular, and then we have groups. So you can go to wheremenhurt.org, register for the conference, spread it around on your Facebook and social media. I think it's going to be an amazing conference. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a few of the speakers. We'll have Pastor Ron Eagleton out of Church of God in Christ in Crosby. We'll have Dr. Cordell Wokey talking about physical health. We'll have First Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Landry talking about finances. We'll have Dr. Pastor Marcus Cosby from Wheeler Avenue talking about business. We'll have Bishop Jerry Martin talking about relationships from Light of the World. We'll have a mental health therapist, a clinical psychologist, Dr. Lawrence Thompson, Jr., and then I'll be touching on the sexuality portion.
Wow, an amazing lineup.
That's
an
crazy.
Amazing lineup.
Yes. Heavy hitters.
I know, yes.
Yeah,
You know, you mentioned no women allowed, and that makes sense. I mean, there's so many women's conferences.
Right.
Lord Jesus.
Right.
You know, so many, abundant. Women come together.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Women have gotten over that hump, but I think you are onto something powerful by bringing men together to talk about things that pertain to men.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, the problem with men is that we're not relational. So if you got a problem, you can call your best friend and you'll say, hey, I'm having a problem. Well, men, because the way we're designed is we're problem solvers. The problem is we try to solve our own. And you know, you can't self-care. You can't self-medicate. And so we try to figure it out on our own. And so then we end up imploding, and then we take it out on the people that we love.
Yeah, that's good. And a lot of times as women, we can misunderstand that. We can see it and, like you say, kind of be judgmental, not because we want to, but maybe that's, part of how we are set up too. Right. But I love the fact that you're doing something, for men, by men, to serve men, to support them, to rally for them. I think that's something beautiful happening for men. Is this something that's more multicultural or for urban? What are your thoughts around that?
Any man that is a man is welcome. Right. We're trying to heal. We're trying to heal the world one man at a time. Yeah. And I think the foundation is set, and it's just a matter of getting the word out and trying to make sure that they're open to receive it.
Well, women, if you are listening, get your man to this conference.
Yes.
So what he's telling you is going down. At this conference, your man just might come back a changed man, the one you've been praying for. Yes. So I would definitely get him to the conference. And also, the barbershop talk. Hey, I'm going to try to get my husband there. Don't tell nobody. Don't let him. I hope you don't watch this. But for real, the barbershop talk is going to be good. I can tell you. Yeah. Because when men get together and talk, it's going nowhere else.
Right.
They're going to get together. They're going to solve the issue because men, he just said it, a problem solver. Right. They're going to solve that issue. Your man going to come home a little bit better, a little bit at a time. And what I'm telling you is get your man with some Christian men, some men of God that can give them good, godly advice, right? And no better place, I don't think, than the barbershop. Yeah. You can trick them, just get them out. Get them there. But no.
If they come, we'll definitely do what we can to help everybody. And like I say, we deal with all type of issues, but there's no issue that I have that my brother doesn't have.
Right.
And when I can say that, I overcame sexual addiction, and I can say when I was 3, I was sexually molested by a female in close proximity to my family, and then at 6, I was sexually molested by a male, and that male thing carried on for 10 years. When I can tell a man that, now his issue doesn't seem as big.
Right.
And so now it makes it easier for him to say, hey, well, I deal with anger issues, or my dad didn't love me, so I don't really know how to love my wife. And so now we can talk about that from a scriptural standpoint, but also from a practical standpoint, taking those steps. My wife's a licensed professional counselor. I'm a big proponent of mental health therapy. And so even when I go to my therapist, a lot of times it is, my wife will say the exact same thing as my therapist, but I can't hear it when my wife says it because she's coming from a place of emotion to me, but my therapist is coming from a place of objective and subjectiveness, and so it helps me to be able to hear it so that I can go back and be a better husband.
Yeah.
Right.
So mental health thing is big, and that's probably what we'll start the day off with on that Saturday, because it's the thing that's probably the biggest factor that keeps us from connecting.
Yeah.
And so mental health is vital.
And I think you say something powerful. I think mindset and mental health is important as well. But sometimes people don't even know that they're struggling with a mental thing, right? They'll say, I'm just tired, or I've been working a lot of hours. And, again, just being a married woman, you can kind of read some differences in your spouse when there's a difference. But maybe in our community, just in general, you think of African American people that, mental health is something we're just kind of coming around to accepting and talking about more openly. So I love that there's conversation about that piece of it.
Yeah, and I think, some of it starts with, because we see the big celebrities, they starting to talk a little bit more, and they're starting to, I think Taraji is doing some stuff with mental health. But you don't really see a lot of proponents for men on the mental health side, because it's not culturally, we were told when we was little, just get over it. Or culturally we were told, boy, don't cry. And so now, because we were raised as an improper way, if I can say that, now we become improper adults. So what you train a child to do is what they're gonna do. So now I don't cry. I don't cry now as an adult unless I'm in worship. So my wife's like, well, you don't really care about me, or you don't care about my situation. You don't care. And it's not that I don't care. It's just the thing that has been trained. I've been trained to do is what I do. And so those are the type of things that I can talk with my therapist about, and she can help me to get in touch with my emotional side.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about, so the book is actually about sexual addictions, right?
That's correct.
So with that, I believe that's like one of the only things that can give you pleasure and shame.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's something that you like, you enjoy, it's something you want to do, right? And it's something that can be godly if it's done in the right way.
Right.
But when addicted to it, it's the thing that you want to do. Your body's calling you to do it, but it brings you at the end.
Right.
It can bring disease, right? It can bring mental issues on, right? It can bring family issues on, divorce. And so how have you found that this book is helping other people overcome those addictions? And what are signs of some of the addictions?
Well,
some of the signs?
I think the first thing I think, and this is, I wrote about this in a book, it is, to me, now I've never been on crack or heroin. To me, sexual addiction is the hardest addiction to overcome. Because it is the thing that you don't have to do something unnatural, right? If I'm a snort cocaine, that's unnatural. That's not what God gave us. God gave us sex, and He gives us a command to do this thing, right? This thing that we like. And so we doing this thing, but it's the distortion of the sex that causes the addiction. And some of it is neurological, some of it is social, some of it is biological. So it is taking those avenues and then getting the help to be better. The question you asked is, what are some of the signs? The primary thing that I found in research is that it becomes addiction when you don't care about the consequences.
Okay. That's good.
So
say that again. It becomes addiction when?
It becomes addiction when you don't care about the consequences. So my partner likes to have sex a lot, and he's married, and he wants to have sex 3 times a day. That doesn't make him a sex addict.
Right, right.
What makes a sex addict is you having sex 3 times a day with your wife, and then you go and have sex with somebody else, and you want to have sex with somebody else. It is that distortion of the sex is what makes it. So he may just have a high testosterone.
Right, right.
And so that makes him want to have sex.
Kind of like an alcoholic. So alcohol is not the problem.
Right.
But the addiction comes when I need to drink alcohol all the time. I'm getting drunk, and it's making me do other stuff, and it's harming my body.
Right.
Gotcha.
So it's the consequences it's the consequences that causes the behavior to be addictive. So even when you look at the terminology, it's called obsessive compulsive disorder.
Right.
So it's like layers. Not only is it excessive, but now it's compulsive.
Gotcha.
Right. And so that's what makes it an addiction.
That's good. Yeah, that's some good information just for people. Sometimes people don't know, where's the threshold?
Right.
When have I stepped from just doing something frequently to now it's a problem.
Right.
I think that's with any kind of addiction. Sometimes people struggle with knowing where they've crossed the line. It kind of makes me think of something that I heard of a story recently, not necessarily about sex addiction, but someone who was struggling with some substance issue. Right. And, I talked to the individual and asked, I was careful in my language, asking how they were doing, and they said they could handle what they were doing, right? So that's somebody who maybe doesn't recognize that it's a problem, right? But couldn't stop. Right. So I think, what you say is powerful because number one, addiction is not limited to substances. Right. It can be, you can be addicted to behaviors.
Shopping.
Yeah, and shopping. That's another bad one.
Now, women, we judging the men, but we can shop. Yeah. We start hiding sex in the trunk. I don't do that, guys. I don't hide sex in the trunk. That's Lindsay. But, seriously, though. Yeah. You over on your credit card, and then it's causing problems at home. You're fighting and fussing. So, it's a lot of addictions out there that we don't want to address. Yeah. And then we talk about other people because it's something that we don't like. And it's because we're not addicted to that thing. We talk about them. Food is an addiction.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. The body of Christ got a big food addiction. Sometimes gluttony is a big one. So, we got to work on this thing because we like to talk about other people. Right. And we like to look at their addictions when they're talking about them and they're facing challenges. But just like he was talking about sex addiction. Mm-hmm. But that food addiction can cause you a lot of internal problems in your body, right? And you can't go do and have fun and do the things you need to be doing. You're in the hospital. It's the same thing. Sometimes you need therapy and help for that.
Right, absolutely.
So I love this topic. That's an awesome book. Show them the book cover, guys.
Yes.
Look at this cover.
He has it here.
Oh. Yes. And even in the book, at the end, I have some reflection questions. And what that does is gives you an opportunity to kind of look at where you are. If you may be on the border of being in an addictive situation. And so you can go through there and read those, read those questions and answer them. And the thing about having to answer the question is you can't lie to yourself.
That's right.
Right? So I can lie to my friends, I can lie to my wife, I can lie to my kids. But when I got to look and read that question and I got to answer it, the true answer is going to pop up in my head first.
Yeah.
So now I have to take accountability for the answer that I just gave.
I want you to hold this book up for the audience. I want you to tell them the name of the book and where they can find your book.
Yes.
The name of the book is Overcoming the Addiction That No One Has. You can get the book. It's on Amazon. If you're local, you can link up with me on social media. I'll bring you a copy. Social media, like I say, is the author Andrew J. Landry is where it's at. And you can find me on all social media sites under that.
Awesome. So I want to do this really quick. I know you said there's a couple of kind of introspective questions to help you know, gentlemen who may be dealing with something like this, help them to understand where they are. Can you run through a couple of those questions?
I think the primary question, the one that I tell everybody when I tell them to look at it, is what is greater than your addiction. So for me, my kids, my boys were greater. And so when you find something that's greater than your addiction, then you will start focusing on that. And so it helps you to re-look at where you are. And then the other one is what reckless behaviors do you have?
Yeah.
So if you can look at your reckless behaviors, then you can start tackling it one step at a time. But find out what's greater, and then find out what reckless behaviors, and you can go for that. But get the book. There are some good questions in here.
It is worth reading, and I love the fact that you say what's greater, because it does give you a reason to look at something other than where you struggle. Sometimes, people can feel defeated by, what they're struggling with, but there's something greater. So awesome. We are so excited, again, to have you. We're honored that you took some time out of your day to be with us. Thank you, Andrew.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
So from this, I wrote my second book.
Yes.
And so my second book,
congrats.
I'm writing it, so I'm almost finished. But the title of it is After the Violation. It's a comprehensive guide to healing after being sexually mishandled.
Yeah.
And so it's going to have some practical steps on what to do when you've been sexually molested, sexually raped, whatever those sexual mishandle, and that's what I call it, mishandling, whatever those sexual situations are. And so be on the lookout for that also.
Awesome. All right. Thank you again, Andrew. We appreciate you sharing.
Thank you much.
All right, we want to thank you for watching this episode of Your Talk Time with
Lindsy Bivens
and Sonjia Pelton-Sam, a show for real people with real issues, coming up with real strategies and winning solutions. Make sure that you follow us on Facebook at Your Talk Time TV. Bye.